My name is Emily Harper. I'm 39 years old, and up until last year, I was a U.S. Secret Service agent stationed in Washington, D.C. My life, it was high-stakes, fast-paced, and looked perfect on paper. But perfection is a facade, and behind mine was a woman unraveling. I live alone in a small townhouse just outside Arlington, Virginia. It's quiet, cold, and hollow, like my life had become. If you'd looked at me a year ago, you'd have seen the sharp, disciplined agent who guarded the most powerful figures in the country. You wouldn't have seen the emptiness I carried or the guilt I buried so deeply that it became part of me. I wasn't always like this. Growing up in a small Ohio town, I was the overachiever. Straight A's star athlete and choir soloist on Sundays. Everyone called me the good girl, the one destined for greatness. And for years I believed it. That belief carried me into law enforcement, where I dedicated my life to protecting others, at any cost. But somewhere along the way, that cost became unbearable. Last October, everything spiraled. A botched operation left my partner, Greg, dead. The details are classified, but I'll tell you this: his death was my fault. I made a mistake, a split-second judgment call, and he paid the price. I'll never forget his wife's face at the funeral or the hollow silence of my once-proud badge sitting in a drawer. The guilt was crushing, but it wasn't the only thing pulling me under. My whole life, I'd chased after success. I was obsessed with being the best, better than anyone else. Promotions, recognition, power, they were my gods. And when I lost my career, I lost my identity. Who was I if I wasn't Agent Harper, the one who never failed? On a cold November night, I decided to end it. The pain, the shame, the unbearable noise in my head, it all needed to stop. I'd planned every detail meticulously, just like the missions I used to execute. A note on the kitchen counter, a loaded Glock on the coffee table, and a tumbler of whiskey to dull the fear. But as I sat there, staring down the barrel of the gun, something strange happened. It wasn't fear that stopped me. It was curiosity. A thought crept in, one I hadn't had in years. What comes next? Was there truly nothing? Or was there something? I pulled the trigger. For a moment, there was silence. A heavy, suffocating silence. Then, darkness enveloped me. Not the kind where you can still make out faint shapes or shadows. This was absolute, oppressive, endless. I felt weightless and heavy at the same time, like my soul had been stripped of my body. But before I could comprehend it, a voice shattered the void. It wasn't loud, but it cut through me like a blade. Emily, remember? Remember? Remember what? Then it hit me. The memories, the choices, the life I'd built on ambition and self-righteousness. The darkness began to twist and pulse, and I saw flashes of my life. My trophies, my promotions, my luxury car. The time I walked past a homeless veteran outside the Capitol without a second glance. The lies I'd told to climb the ladder. Your treasure is here, the voice whispered. But where will you go now? And that's when the darkness began to burn. The burning wasn't fire as we know it. It was deeper, internal, invasive. It wasn't my skin or flesh that suffered, but something more profound. My soul felt as though it was being scorched, and yet, I didn't die again. I simply endured. In the void, visions began to form, vivid and undeniable. The first was a mirror, floating before me in the blackness. I leaned closer and saw myself, not as I had been in life, but as I truly was. My eyes were sunken, my face gaunt, and my smile twisted into a mockery of joy. I looked hollow, like a shell of a person consumed by her own desires. Then the mirror shattered. The pieces floated around me, each reflecting a moment I had long buried. There I was, sitting at a banquet, laughing with colleagues while my assistant worked late into the night on my unfinished projects. There I was, brushing off my mother's call because I was too busy. And there I was, standing in front of Greg's wife, lying through my teeth about how it couldn't have been helped. I wanted to scream, but I had no voice. My mind raced and panic clawed at me. Was this it? Was this death? No, the voice said again, as if reading my thoughts. This is clarity. The scene changed, and I was no longer floating. I was standing in a desolate, endless landscape. The ground was cracked and barren, the air heavy and suffocating. In the distance, I saw faint glimmers of light, like dying embers scattered across the horizon. Walk, the voice commanded. I obeyed, not because I wanted to, but because I had no choice. Each step felt like wading through thick tar. The glimmers grew brighter as I approached, revealing twisted, grotesque shapes. They were people, or what was left of them. Their eyes were sunken, their faces gaunt, and their hands clutched at objects, money, trophies, mirrors, phones. One man held a golden crown that crumbled into ash as he gripped it. Another clutched a withered bouquet of roses, their petals falling like tears. I recognized them. Not their faces, but their desperation. They were like me, consumed by the things of this world. One of them turned to me, his eyes hollow but piercing. "What did you bring?" he asked, his voice cracked and brittle. I don't understand," I stammered. He pointed to my hands. They were empty. The voice returned, louder this time. "You thought you were good. You measured yourself by your own standard. But where is your fruit, Emily?" Fruit. The word echoed in my mind, and I remembered faint whispers from my childhood Sunday school. By their fruits you shall know them. I'd convinced myself I was a good person. I protected lives. I achieved greatness. But what did I really leave behind? The ground trembled and cracks widened beneath me. Flames licked at my feet, and the heat surged. The glimmers of light around me began to dim, each soul vanishing into the abyss. "Am I going to hell?" I whispered, my voice trembling. The voice didn't answer immediately. Instead, the silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. Finally, it spoke, low and deliberate. "You have always been on this path, but the end is not yet written." With those words, I fell, plunging into the abyss. But as I fell, something caught me. Something, or someone pulled me back. A blinding light enveloped me, and for the first time, I felt warmth, not burning. I wasn't alone. And then I woke up. I gasped for air as my eyes fluttered open, my chest heaving like I'd been underwater for hours. I was no longer in my bedroom, and the pills that had scattered across the nightstand were gone. Instead, I was in a hospital room, a sterile brightness surrounding me. The monitors beeped softly, a nurse was adjusting N4, and I heard murmured voices outside the door. I was alive. But how? The weight of what I had experienced slammed into me like a tidal wave. My heart pounded as fragments of the otherworldly realm replayed in my mind. The mirror, the voices, the emptiness in my hands. All of it felt more real than the hospital bed I lay in now. "Emily, you're awake." A doctor's voice broke through my daze. He was middle-aged, his face kind but firm. "We almost lost you. If your neighbor hadn't called 911 when she heard the crash." Crash? I vaguely remembered stumbling over a chair after taking the pills, but it didn't matter. I hadn't succeeded in ending my life. Someone or something had intervened. "Why did you save me?" The words tumbled out before I could stop them. The doctor frowned. "We didn't save you, Emily. You're the one who fought to come back." I couldn't respond. How could I explain that I hadn't fought to come back? I'd wanted to leave this world behind. But the voice from the void echoed in my mind. The end is not yet written. The days that followed were a blur of therapy sessions, concerned visits from my colleagues, and uneasy introspection. I avoided mirrors. I couldn't bear to see my reflection, afraid that I'd see the hollow version of myself staring back. But the memories of that place haunted me. Every night, I relived the faces of those lost souls, clinging to their worldly obsessions. And every day, I questioned, had I been given a second chance? One morning, I found myself in an empty chapel. It was quiet, the air heavy with the scent of candles and old wood. I sat in the back, staring at the cross hanging above the altar. "What do you want from me?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. The silence stretched, but in that stillness, I felt something shift within me. It wasn't a voice this time, but a clarity, realization that hit me like lightning. I had spent my life chasing achievements, protecting lives, and accumulating accolades, but it was all empty. My soul had been starving, and I hadn't even noticed. The signs had been there all along. My obsession with control, my belief in my own righteousness, and the barren fruit of a life lived for myself. Tears streamed down my face as I knelt on the cold floor. For the first time, I prayed, not out of obligation or tradition, but from the depths of my brokenness. "God, I don't know what I'm doing," I admitted. "But if you saved me, if you gave me another chance, show me what to do with it. I don't want to go back to that place. I don't want to be that person." The warmth I had felt in the void returned, subtle but unmistakable. It wasn't an answer or a roadmap, but it was enough. From that moment on, I began to rebuild, not my career or reputation, but my soul. I sought out the relationships I'd neglected, apologized to those I'd wronged, and learned to listen instead of control. It wasn't easy, and the weight of my past didn't disappear overnight. But I carried the memory of that experience with me like a warning and a gift. It reminded me that the path to hell isn't sudden. It's gradual, paved with self-deception and misplaced priorities. And it reminded me that even at the edge of the abyss, redemption is possible. My name is Emily Grayson. I was a Secret Service agent. I tried to end my life, but I was given a second chance. And now, I live to tell the story, because someone out there might need to hear it before it's too late.
Thank you for walking this journey with us. The story you've just heard isn't just a tale. It's a wake-up call. The signs that a soul is headed down the wrong path are often subtle. An obsession with worldly things, the dangerous belief that being a good person is enough, and the absence of real, meaningful fruit in our lives. These signs are warnings, urging us to turn around before it's too late. If this story resonated with you, don't ignore the stirring in your heart. Reflect, seek truth, and take steps to realign your life with what truly matters. None of us are beyond redemption, and no path is so far gone that it cannot be redirected. If you found value in this message, don't let it stop with you. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. Let's spread hope, transformation, and truth together. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss future stories and content that challenge and inspire. This journey isn't over, and there's so much more to uncover. Thank you for being here. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay hopeful, and remember, the end is not yet written.